I guess first question, if you can go back to your playing days, playing at Moorhead, do you have any fond memories of playing Bemidji State or playing at Chet Anderson?
We did. I remember my senior year we played here, and it was a pretty decent year. Can't remember who the head coach was for Bemidji at the time, but they were about a 7-3 team, something like that. And we came here, and it was a tough battle. It was parent day and everything, and I can remember winning the game and riding home with a friend after the game, and instead of the bus, and just kind of celebrating the win. But they had a good team, and I can remember that one. So it was a pretty place. They still had the Paul Bunyan Hotel down kind of by the Dairy Queen, and we stayed in that. And it was old back then. I can remember that, and it was fun though. So much different, than the city life and everything. But I do remember my senior year playing here.
Obviously, the battle axe has been traded between those two teams for years. Do you remember that being an extra incentive for you playing?
Not as much as I realize how important it is now. I can't remember if we had it for a while or didn't have it at the time, but I remember our coaches talking about it a little bit. Sometimes, it's your job as a coach to really push or press the rivalry and everything, and I don't remember it being a huge thing at that time, but I remember getting it and taking it home, and it was neat and all that. But it's nothing like a coach where we definitely try and push that and make it a huge thing for our players.
What got you into coaching? Your playing days came to an end. Did you have that kind of in your sights through your undergrad?
My mom had a picture when I was a little kid, and in the picture I'm holding a tennis racket, a basketball, a football, a baseball, a bat, skis, and she just said at that age, when I was in grade school, that she knew I wanted to get into athletics and coaching. I just enjoyed all sports, and then I started out in the youth leagues, and even when I was in junior high and high school, you go coach a little pee-wee team or help or school projects. So it just seemed like it was something that I knew right from a pretty young start that I wanted to get into that field.
You spent some time then coaching as a GA and then into the assistant role. What eventually attracted you to the head coaching spot at Bemidji State?
I'd been at North Dakota a long time. We were winning, we were successful, and I was the line coach, the assistant head coach, and kind of saw the good and the bad of being a head coach, and was in this area so much whenever I'd have free time. I loved the lay of the land. I loved to be out on the water, and I just always thought if I had the opportunity to come over here and be the head coach, I would. I applied, and luckily I got the job, and I remember it was my dream to live on a lake, and acquired that the first year I was here. So, a little bit of the lay of the land, which can be a plus or minus for Bemidji for some people, but for me it was an area I wanted to live and do the recreational things, and I enjoy a challenge. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. It was going to take a long time to build and turn the program around, but I just kind of thought I was the guy that could do that, and had pretty good patience, and so away we go 16 years later.
Kind of touched on it. You knew it would be a building process. It took you 7 games to get your first win. At that point, I think you went 2-9 that first season. Could you see yourself being here 16 years later and getting that 100th win?
No, honestly not. And it wasn't a thing where I wanted to come here. I planned to move after 1 year, 4 years, 5 years, whatever, but just come and do as good a job as I possibly can. And those first years were very rough. Thank goodness we lived on a lake and had a dock to sit out and sit on the edge of the dock and just go, what did I do? I mean, there were some days where it was some pretty tough challenges, but applied for a different job or two throughout the years I've been here. Didn't get them for whatever reason. God had a plan on that, and all of a sudden you're here 16 years later, and my wife is a grad of Bemidji State. Our kids love the area. They like the recreational things it has to offer too. So, it was a plan to be here, I guess, and this is where we're meant to be.
What if you can remember, what drove you as a young coach? I mean, you're head coach of this program that hasn't had the history that maybe North Dakota had, or maybe even Moorhead had. So what kind of drove you then, those first few years as your first head coaching experience?
Well, at first when I got into coaching, I was a little bit of like a player. I wanted to make it to the professional football league. Who didn't, you know? And I got a chance to get a cup of coffee with the Atlanta Falcons, and it was the same way at first. I want to end up being in major college. I want to become a professional coach. And but then it was funny, as your priorities change, you get married, you get kids, and I always said if that ever happened, that I would want to go back to a high school or kind of find a place where it would be a stable setting, which is kind of an oxymoron in coaching to think that you're going to find a stable spot and settle in. It just doesn't happen that often, and more times than not you're fired or you move or something happens. So really it is unusual to stay in one spot 16 years. But that was kind of my thought process as a player. I wanted to climb the ladder. When I was single, I wanted to climb the ladder, and then when I got married and had a family, I wanted to settle in a little bit more, and that's kind of what's happened.
You look around the league, around the country, head coaches leave, fired, move on. Assistant coaches, they just kind of, some coaches run through them, especially at Division I level. You always hear about we're not winning, let's change the staff. You've kind of had a unique coaching staff where, obviously Rich Jahner's been here with you as long as you have, and Bolty's in his 9th, 10th year. You got Medbury that has been here for 7 years, on and off. What is it about your staff that you can say that has kind of carried through these years?
We tried to hire guys, first of all, that liked the area, wanted to be here, wanted to live here. Sometimes people need a job, so they're going to go live in a place they don't want to live in, and they're always looking to leave. Their family's not going to be happy, so I wanted guys that wanted to be at Bemidji, be in the area, that type of thing. And then we purposely have designed our day to, some people may view it as not be the guy that sleeps in the office till 2 in the morning, works 365 days of the year. We try and keep a nice life balance between the job and faith, family, activity, all of the above. And we're not here, guys don't have to feel afraid to go home at night. They don't have to tiptoe down the hall. I've coached for guys like that before, so we've tried to have a nice balance, take advantage of all the fun things here, not be away from your family, to the point where, there's trouble. And I think that has made it enjoyable to work here. It's made it enjoyable for me. I mean, there's just times and places where I could say you're up at 5 in the morning or you're there till 2, and every day of the week. And we certainly have to do some of those things still, but we try to make it a job where it's fun to be here too, and the winning helps on that, but it's purposely designed to, not be drudgery, and I think that happens at some programs. I think that's why guys like it here.
Would you say you have a certain coaching style? Obviously with collegiate athletics, literally every year you could have, depending on your talent, need to do something different. So would you say you have a style, or does it kind of change with what you bring in?
I think I'm not afraid to adapt. Have some old-fashioned rules with, earrings and some things like that, but I think I've adapted with time and hair length and all those different things. So I think that's important for a coach to adapt from generation to generation or year to year. And sometimes that's not easy for me. I grew up in the old 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of coaching philosophy. So I think we've adapted a little bit, and I think you have to. And otherwise, sometimes you can kind of lose the kids, or you're not current with everything. And then as I get older and older, I still don't think I'm that old, but you need young assistants around or graduate assistants that can keep you current with slangs, terminology, what's going on, and I think that's important too.
How about on the field? Do you have sets that you've run since the day you've been here, or is that just again been with the talent and things like that?
I think it's been adaptability too. Probably the biggest mistake I did the first couple of years was just try and do what we did at previous jobs, and realize we weren't going to be able to do some of those things here. So then our philosophy has been, let's play the best kids, and if that means change formations from season to season, because we don't have any tight ends this year. Well, why would we put a bad kid out on the field? Or we got a good tight end now. Why would you have him on the bench? So I think we try to adapt to the personnel and remember teaching young coaches that, and they'll come back and they still say they remember that, get the best players on the field instead of what you did a year ago.
How about the student athletes? I mean, obviously this is a job where you're dealing with, 18, 17, even to 22-year-olds that are learning about themselves as well. What do you want out of, or what do you want for the student athletes out of their experience at college, coming as a freshman, staying here often 5 years?
Well, that's an interesting part of the job. I think I teach a coaching football class, and I think the kids learn about the hours that coaches put in, the trials and tribulations, but I don't think till you actually get into coaching you realize all the counseling, all the things that you're doing when you have 100 athletes on your team. I mean, I spend as much of my day helping kids that just lost a grandma, or they broke up with their girlfriend, or they got in trouble over the weekend, and you have to be a counselor and a mentor to them, and that takes a lot of time. I enjoy it. You want better for the kids, and that was one of the other things that has been really fun for me. It was about 8 years ago I got involved with Fellowship and Christian Athletes, and you want the championships, you want the rings, you want the wins and everything, but really now, along with that, as important it is for me is to help give the kids eternal life, or make them better characters, or get them prepared for jobs and marriage and all those things. And those are all parts of the job that, like people say, what do you do up there all day long? And those are a lot of things that you do. But so if you can help them in any of those areas with their faith, family, problems, that's kind of your job, and I do enjoy that a lot.
How about any defining or favorite moments that you've had in the last 16 seasons that stick out in your mind?
There are obviously some certain wins. You throw up a Hail Mary against St. John's, the championships, but really, it's like what athletes say when they retire. Brett Favre, I miss the locker room, and really it's the relationships with the players are, when they come back for homecoming and you tell jokes and you tell stories, it's those relationships, and there's so many of those that you couldn't even start to scratch the surface in the interview. But the wins and all those things are fun too, but it's fun to see this guy graduate that you never thought was going to, or this guy that had all sorts of problems when he was young, start to grow up and make better choices, and those are as rewarding too. We brought some kids to Christ here, which is enormously rewarding. So some of those things aren't in the newspaper and everything, but as a coach, you enjoy that as much as throwing up a Hail Mary for a touchdown.
How about, do you have any traditions, any maybe quirks, I guess, that you've developed over the years, not stepping on the end line, those type of things, like you see in baseball or something?
Oh, I can remember as a player, I had to have the stripe on the end of your socks exactly perfect before you could put your shoes on. So I get that. I love to listen to, as a coach, pre-game fight songs, and I'll have them out of my office. The Notre Dame song, the fight song, or Michigan, and I've got probably 150 on my desktop, and I enjoy that. I don't really like the pregame stuff the kids like now, where it's a rap song or this or that. I wish we had the marching band kind of music, and just those old traditional fight songs. I like listening to those before the games, and I've got a certain prayer that I've said since I've been in 7th grade that I say before every game, and there's probably more than I can even remember, but yeah, I do got a few, and just can't start the game without them. So there is definitely a few there.
How about any sayings that you bring to the team? Like we've talked about, teams change, team dynamics change, but is there something that you've said in the locker room or said before you hit the field every year or the past few years?
I'm sure the players would tell you I have some, because they can mimic and copy whatever a coach says all the time, but I don't think I have a signature saying that I can think of, you do this, it builds championships or character or whatever. So there might be one there, but I can't think if I have that one that I've repeated for 16 years.
After the game last week, when you were talking with Brian Schultz on the radio, you talked a lot about you made some right decisions, made some wrong decisions. Obviously, made a lot of tough decisions in a game like that. There's a lot of coaching that goes into a game like that because there was a lot of situations. It's more than just the players going out and play. 16 years later, are those the type of games, type of situations that keep you going?
It is, and when you're competitive, as most coaches are, sometimes the old saying is, are the highs higher than the lows are lows, and sometimes those lows can outweigh the highs. And even though they won the game, I'm so picky on myself, and did I do the right thing? And my wife had to remind me that we won the game, and some of them didn't go as good as I would have wanted. Sometimes the average fan in the stand doesn't realize, that's why you put the hours in and you call this play, and then an 8-year-old kid doesn't block the right direction, so it doesn't work, and then of course it makes you look bad, but and you can't say that in the media. So there's reasons why you do things, and then there's still times where you are human and you get caught up in the moment, and you only have about 5 seconds to make up your mind. And I think that's the advantage of having 16 years in, or why in the NFL you'll see coaches that are 70 years old, and you're like, how can those guys, even get around to coach anymore? But it is a game of experience and adjustments going on in the sideline, and I know I do a better job of that now than I did my first year here 16 years ago, without a doubt.
How about the future for you? I mean, obviously it's been a long. You've built this program to. It's probably the most successful, decade and a half. What do you think is in store for you? Maybe not necessarily here, but moving on. You have still some young kids. Kind of what's in store?
Well, yeah, we certainly love it here. We enjoy it here. I've always said that I'd love to stay here as long as I felt there's progress, and I said that 16 years ago, and I think we have. Every coach wishes it was, greener and better and all those things, and you'll go to Notre Dame, and I'm sure they wish they could have freshmen play instead of, or they could redshirt freshmen instead of having to play them right away. Every school's got their little things they'd like better, and we certainly do here. We have some fun things that are planned with facilities coming up that'll make it easier and more enjoyable to be here. I think my answer to that is the age of my kids and family, and as long as we've been here, it would be tough to move. Is there one dream job out there? I always wish I could go here or something. Not really. And just enjoy it an awful lot here, and I don't know what the job would be that we'd even look at to pursue another job. So I think we're very happy right here, right now, and all the focus is on just doing as good a job and enjoying Bemidji as much.
All right, Coach Jahner. First question I got for you is, what brought you to Bemidji State?
Well, I was actually living in St. Louis, Missouri at the time when Coach Tesch dropped me on a line and asked if I'd be interested in the position. And my wife and I are both from North Dakota, and we were at that time looking to maybe stick around St. Louis for a while. We liked a lot of things that they had, the community had to offer, and living in a metropolitan area. But as we talked it over, we kind of thought that moving a little bit closer to home and more of a Midwest upbringing was more important. We wanted to live in a community instead of a city, and when we came and took a look at what Bemidji had to offer, we thought that it would be a perfect environment to raise our kids.
What kind of history do you have with Coach Tesch before that call?
Well, actually not much prior to that, other than I grew up in North Dakota and Coach Tesch was coaching in North Dakota. It was more common coaches in the field. Some guys that he worked with were guys that knew me, and that's how we had our connection prior to working together here at Bemidji State.
So the first season rolls around. It takes you 7 games to get the first win. What are your thoughts after maybe that first season or two? You obviously made a big commitment to coming up here.
Yeah, thoughts were, what did we get ourselves into? That was pretty common feeling back in those days. But Coach always said it's going to get worse before it gets better, and he was right in those regards. But we just kept battling away and plugging away, and it all paid off, obviously.
As the years went on, obviously you guys started to gain some success and winning games, finishing over 500 consistently. What made you stay for now your 16th season?
Well, there was a lot of times in those first 2 years where you had some doubts, but I always believed in the philosophy that Coach Tesch had about running a program. Personalities might be different, but philosophies were in sync and on the same line. And in that third season when we got it turned around, I don't know if I can even think of a more rewarding season than getting this program turned around and headed in the right direction. And then ever since then, it's just like been riding a giant wave, and it's been a lot of fun.
Talking to Coach earlier today, he mentioned that one of the reasons why he never left or wanted to leave is because of progress. Like, just if you're making progress, that keeps him around. Do you share those kind of same sentiments?
Well, there's kind of two philosophies that are out there in the world of coaching. You can continue to put your career first in your life, and then you got to bounce around and move, and you keep trying to reach the big time. Or the other train of thought is to just dedicate yourself, commit yourself, and make where you're at the big time. And I obviously have chosen the latter, and it's very rewarding. Another thing about just staying somewhere and working hard and seeing the progress of the program is the great relationship that you have with your players, who then become alums. When you're bouncing around from school to school, you may recruit a kid and you're gone in a couple of years. Well, here we've been able to watch a young man come in as a 17-year-old that we started recruiting, mature, go through college, become a good football player, get a degree, and then now there's no more special day on the whole calendar than homecoming. When they come back with their wives, their kids, and you've seen the success that they've had, you've watched them grow into men, and you see the progress that they've made. That's the progress that I really enjoy. I just look forward to homecoming more than any other day of the year, because you get to see your boys. They do come home, and it's like having an extended family. And that's really nice, because you get to really see the influence that you've had on the young men. And then it's nice because you get to reward them, because they never have a clue as how much influence they have on me as a coach and me as a person, and all of us and the whole staff. So that's the progress I like to see, is the progress that our players made. And when you stick at one place for a long time, going on 16 years, you've got a lot of kids that you've got to watch grow up and go on and be successful in life. That's very rewarding.
Is that what you feel brings or keeps not only you, but also Coach Bolte's been here for a while. Menberry was here, left, came back. Is that type of atmosphere that you have? And then also, what is it about Coach Tesch that brings in students and keeps students? Is it kind of all that family program feeling, or what is it that brings people in and makes them stay?
Well, Coach Tesch deserves all the credit for everything you're talking about right there. He's created an environment here and a working atmosphere that makes it so conducive to staying. We don't have the facilities, we don't have the finances, we don't have a lot of things that most successful Division II programs have. But the one thing that we do have is a great working environment, and in the family type of atmosphere that exists on our players. There is something special here, but it's not buildings and it's not facilities. It's just the atmosphere and the environment that Coach Tesch has created. Makes working here so wonderful, and keeps us here as a staff. That's one of the reasons why there is a lot of continuity. And I can tell you this, that a lot of members of our coaching staff have left Bemidji State not because they had a choice. There just wasn't any positions open. They've gone out and they would do anything to come back and coach here. And there's been a lot of our former graduate assistants that have eventually gotten out of coaching just because when they went to different programs, they just would always call back, well, it's not like BSU, it's not like BSU. And again, Coach Tesch deserves all the credit for that. He's created a working environment and a program which people like to be around, and it is successful. And the numbers, they add up, and they're proof in the pudding there.
Is there a either a defining moment or a favorite moment that you have maybe with Coach Tesch that kind of sticks out in your mind, kind of reminiscing after
Wow.
accomplishing 100 wins?
100 wins, and there was a lot. But you think of just that first winning season. I cannot tell you the joy and the happiness that we experienced just having that first winning season. Back in 1998, you want to talk about kids in a candy shop. I mean, we were just elated. And then you look at going 9-2 and the most wins in school history. You think of winning a conference title. I mean, that one obviously is a pinnacle. And going to a postseason bowl game, and just the great time that we had with our players, their families, and our families, the whole Beaver football community, just getting the opportunity to go to a bowl game and experience that the whole week, the pageantry, the hotels, hanging out, it was absolutely wonderful. So there's a lot of them. I still remember win number 1. And I certainly remember win number 100, just the way that one went down. It couldn't be any more dramatic. So there's been a lot of milestones along the way, and I've just been blessed because I've just been along for the ride.